All right, guys. We are here today with the first 2J block that I took apart out of the MKIII Supra. So initially, I took it over to Shawn to have it inspected, checked due to loss of compression. So upon taking it apart, unfortunately, we had some bad news. So Shawn's gonna go through basically what he found, what happened, and we found some surprises inside of the block that even we didn't even know about.
Yeah.
So it's actually a good thing that this engine didn't run from the get-go because it probably wouldn't have lasted. So Shawn, tell us what you really found.
Yep. So after disassembling everything, first I'm going to start off with the oil pan.
Okay.
Windage tray, oil pump pickup, and the pan itself were just full of bearing material. Decent amount of decent sized chunks that were actually stuck in the screen. See right over here, you know.
Mm-hmm.
The pan itself, the whole bottom of the pan is just covered on a lot of bearing material, unfortunately.
Right.
Show that to the camera.
Yeah. So
All
could
sludgy.
if I get a
shiny.
flashlight, you could probably see it even more.
Yep. So that was like a first indicator that I knew something was wrong in the block. Aside from looking at the bores on the block, there's a lot of vertical striations, a lot of cylinder wear. And then next thing I took apart was the pistons, starting off at number one. They're all pretty much the same, like beaten up wise. But starting off, the most obvious part here, a lot of side skirt wear, which translates to the side skirt wear, the side bore wear on the block itself. This can be just caused by a couple different things: timing, over revving, to name the two. In addition to this, that what's probably led to him having no compression or little compression across all 6 cylinders is that so the ring gap from 1 to 5 are pretty much all the same. They're pretty much right on top of each other. You're going to have no compression across each cylinder that's just like this. And I'm guaranteed that's why Rahul was getting a lot of trouble to start the car on a cold start. Moving on, besides the piston rings, the side skirt wear, I'm going to point out some really bad bearing damage as well. Top of the bearing here that's connected to the rod, it started to wipe away that small, like they have like a protective film on them. You can see over here to the camera in the front. Some bearing material or some debris when whoever rebuilt this block beforehand just definitely went through, found its way in the oiling system itself. You could feel a lot of these scores and scrapes along each bearing. Moving on to the cap side, this is where you're going to really see a lot of the harshness in the bearing, because this is the part of the bearing that takes the most abuse, right? Because you have a piston going up and down. This is at the bottom of the rotating assembly, obviously. And this is also the softest part of this entire assembly itself. So you can see here, a lot of damage. All the protective coating on this side of the bearing is completely gone. A lot of scores. You can feel it in your nail when you run through it. And on top of that, when you pop the bearing out, across each 6 of the rod caps, excessive amount of heat wear. That could, well, another thing I noticed that probably led to this is that each rod bolt was like way over torqued. You know, when you over torque them, you start to egg shape them. And when you egg shape them, what happens is that you lose the out of roundness in the large end of the rod. And what happens is that you make the top and bottom parts of the bearing tighter, so you have less oil clearance, and the oil reserve is what I call it on the sides gets larger, just because it starts to egg shape more when you over tighten them and stuff like that.
All right, cool. So, basically, otherwise to us seeing the damages on the skirt,
Yep.
And then we discussed the oil rings being out of orientation, right?
Yep.
So we had in total of bearing material, skirt damage, and obviously our piston ring. So more than likely somebody's been in this
definitely
engine before prior.
Because piston rings don't walk at all this bad. I mean, this is number 2, and the ring gap is right on top of each other.
Right.
You know, you're gonna make little to no compression like this. This is exactly what led to your hard start.
Right.
That day, you tried your best to start it, but rings just weren't orientated properly.
Right. So what's the correct orientation for these rings?
So pretty much for compression rings, this is what I do. Wiseco also has a really nice diagram which I follow on their website.
Okay.
For pretty much any piston I do, I orientate them pretty much 180 out. So I have like one here, and the second ring, the bottom ring, will be like right here.
Okay.
Because you want, when these tighten up and close in the block, you want the farthest travel possible for like lost compression, I guess you could say.
Okay.
So you have the most compression in your block. When you have them right on top of each other, this is the easy. This is like the path of least resistance.
Right.
So all your compression just blows right through there.
Right.
Which is what happened on pistons 1 to 5. Piston 6 was kind of close, but still out of range. They were like almost 90-degree out, I would say, but still nowhere near where it needs to be to have correct orientation.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So we're gonna set aside the table, and we're gonna bring the block over, and Shawn's just gonna basically show you guys the damages that happened to the block, and then if he believes it's still salvageable, and what's the next steps to take to reuse this block in another engine build. So basically, we're gonna go through all the bores and explain what happened here. Shawn's gonna show you guys the damages he found. And then along with what he believes is best to do with this block.
Yep.
So Shawn?
So starting off with cylinder 1, what pretty much matches up with piston 1, a lot of side skirt wear on a piston, which translates to a lot of cylinder bore wear on each side. You could kind of feel the roughness with your finger, or with your nail rather. For the most part, cross-hatching is still there. This cylinder experiences the least amount of stress, being that it's up all the way up in the front. And you can see as we make our way down, each cylinder progressively gets worse. Surprisingly, number 2 is probably the worst here with this little vertical striation, this little mark here. You can definitely feel it with your nail. So something like this, you cannot use it back at the stock bore. Depending on how deep the machine shop has to bore these out, the next step up is 86 1/4. If not, then 86.5 mil. So moving on, same thing. A lot of side skirt wear, a lot of cylinder wear on this. You can definitely feel it with your fingers. Same thing with 3, which matches up with 2, besides that really large gash. Some slight rusting over, but nothing too serious. It's just pretty much color in the block right now. It's not the end of the world. You could tell this block definitely sat for some time, because if you see down in number 4, that is your oil ring, or at least an imprint of your oil ring along here. Same thing again, a lot of side wear from your skirts. Cross hatching is still present, not the best, but it's still there. Number 5, I definitely think 5 and 6 got some type of heat in them. You can see all of this color in here along the block. Same thing again, vertical striations from the skirt wear. You can feel it a little bit with your nails also. Same thing on this side. 6, same thing, a lot of coloring along the cylinder bores. It's just heat. And again, a lot more of that side bore wear from your skirt on each side. Oh, this one has a lot. This side. Overall, this block is still usable, but definitely not at the stock bore. At this point, I would probably have, or Rahul is going to take it to the machine shop, and they're going to see what's the next size closest they could go up to. These stock blocks, you can only go up to 87 mil. So a lot of the machine shops like to go up in increments just to save the life of the block. So I would say, depending on this gash here, it's not the end of the world. So I think you might get away with 86 1/4. So yeah, this block is still usable. We're gonna spin it around, show you the crank side in a little bit, and could dive deeper into this. All right, moving on to the bottom side of the block, or the crank side. First off, crank spins pretty nice and free. And most important, I don't feel no tightness on one particular area, which tells me the main bearings aren't in as bad of a shape as the rod bearings. Because when the pistons were in the block, there was a really tight spot. Um, you know, it was really hard to spin over by hand, and then once you pass that tight spot, then it freed up a lot. So that's an indication that something was definitely wrong on the rod bearing end. Moving on to the journals of the crank. Um, Not too bad damage going on here. Some scoring, but not bad. You don't really feel too much with your hands or with your nails. Moving on to 1 and 6. Same thing. Nothing too crazy bad. The bearings themselves, pretty much, you can say they saved the crankshaft because the bearings are a lot softer material than the crankshaft itself. Yeah, this isn't bad. Like a nice micro polish on this, at least on the rod journal side, should be pretty good. So far this crank is savable. Now I'm going to pull off a main cap. This was loose already from when I had first pulled this off. Just to show you guys the condition of this main bearing. There we go. Put this off. So main bearing itself, it's not that bad. Wipe it off all this oil. There you go. Get a much better look. It's not that bad. Yes, I could definitely tell some material debris went through the main journals. You can see this gash right here, which you can feel with your nail. So that's not the best. I had pulled off all of these, but they're all pretty much look exactly like this, so I won't bore you all with the same thing over and over. But yeah, just dirty oil, debris, probably bearing material went through it. Kind of started eating away at the bearing a little bit. Kind of see it more here on what I call the reserve side, the oil reserve side of the bearing. See, pretty big gash over there. So you're generally going to have more clearance or tolerance on this side than you're going to have up and down. That's why you probably have all these little gashes and stuff going on over here. Um, Main journal for the crank, again, looks pretty good. Nothing crazy going on. The bearings are going to get all the beating because they're a lot softer compared to the material of the crank. Yeah, overall, crank definitely is savable. A nice micro polish on it and a hot tank, and this crank is ready to go. Same thing with the block. Just bore it out to the next closest size, order pistons accordingly, and make some good power.
All right, guys. So basically, that's really where we stand with what we found on this motor. The customer decided to vouch for a brand new Toyota short block.
Oh yeah.
So we'll be installing that. We'll also have his head sent out, just check for any more debris or any other, let's say a bad valve or something in that nature. Just to have it checked, just want to verify, make sure everything is good so he doesn't run into an issue again. So I believe he is getting rid of this block to somebody else. So
Somebody's slower.
Huh?
Somebody's slower.
Oh yeah, somebody's slower, a whole lot slower. Yeah, definitely for sure. He wouldn't have to worry too much about putting big internals because his car doesn't make that much power.
Yeah,
which is all right. So, but yeah, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys have any other questions, or if you guys are looking to do a DIY, or if you guys would like to have an engine built by us, just give us a shout. Let us know. Like I said, any questions, feel free. We're more than happy to help you guys. All right.
Yep. See you on the next one.